Happy Saturday. Thank you for joining us for tonight's bulletin, the news in detail with me, Gloria Mutesi. Now, as we start this edition of the news, let us inform you that the Chief of General of Staff of the Central African Republic Armed Forces, Major General Zephyrim Mamudu, led a military team of experts from Central African Republic that conducted a one-week working visit here in Rwanda. The purpose of the visit was to discuss the implementation of the Defense Cooperation Agreement signed between CAR and Rwanda in October 2019. The delegation on Saturday held discussions with the RDF Chief of Defense Staff, General Jean Bosco Kazura, at the RDF headquarters that culminated into the signing of an implementation protocol in the areas of operations and training. Rwanda currently maintains 2 battalions and a Level 2 hospital under the UN peacekeeping mission in the Central African Republic. Rwanda has also deployed an additional battalion in the framework of the bilateral agreement that supports the consolidation of peace and security in the Central African Republic. In other news, with the decision to postpone the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting, again, without a doubt having been a difficult one to make, experts believe that it was warranted because of the way the COVID-19 pandemic has continued to be a global threat. Seishnore has more.
Experts on international politics and diplomacy assert that gatherings like CHOGM present a unique opportunity when it comes to foreign relations. When you're fortunate enough to receive 40 to 50 heads of state and government at once, it saves you many trips abroad because if you were to attempt to go and see them all, it would take you 50 days if you met each for a few hours every day, traveling from one location to another. It's not just Rwanda. Any country hosting such an event is presented with many opportunities on the diplomatic front. You have ministers in charge of foreign affairs, economies, and key members of private sectors present because the heads of state and government meeting is not the only one that happens. You have others too that precede it, and these are all opportunities to discuss important matters to do with different sectors. During CHOGM, important decisions are made every 2 years, although now the duration between meetings has become longer because of COVID. And such decisions are always associated with the place they were made and the time they were made. In this case, Kigali.
Ariko ibifatwamo muri icyo gihe biba bitwara kashe y'igihugu. Iravuga ngo icyemezo cyafatiwe i Kigali iki niki.
This is the second time the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting has been postponed because of the COVID-19 global pandemic. And the World Health Organization has reported 5.7 million new cases since the 25th of April, and 87,000 fatalities were reported in the last week of April alone. Infections have gone up by 110% in the last 2 months, the highest since the pandemic began towards the end of 2019, and India is currently being affected the most. The COVID-19 pandemic is spreading very quickly across the globe, and after close to a year and a half, around 160 million people have been infected in more than 190 countries around the world, with 3 million fatalities. This is not a problem a single country can deal with on its own. Everybody must work together. Look at India. More than 20 million people have been infected, and more than 200,000 have died.
Miliyoni 20 abamaze gutakaza ubuzima bararenga 200,000.
Since the 4th of this month of May, 29 of the Commonwealth 50 nations have either closed their borders or imposed strict travel restrictions. So had CHOGM 2021 gone ahead as planned, participation would have been between just 10 and 15% for member states. His Excellency Paul Kagame, the President of Rwanda, and the Right Honourable Patricia Scotland, the Secretary-General of the Commonwealth, have gone on record to say that human life must be considered above all else during this pandemic, which is why the meeting must be postponed until the situation allows it to be held. Patricia Scotland has commended Rwanda for the dedication the country has shown in preparations to host the event and said the community looks forward to the time it will be held in Kigali. Up to 10,000 delegates had been expected to attend the meeting.
On the same note, the Private Sector Federation of Rwanda is urging the private sector in general to not be discouraged after the postponement of the Commonwealth Heads of State and Government meeting that was scheduled for next month, but rather focus on the bettering of their services so that when the meeting does take place, everything will be in place. Sam Kalisa has more.
Changes are visible to everyone who resides or arrives in Kigali. The change is indicated by the renovation of business premises around the city, construction of new roads in different areas, plus renovating hotels whose owners expect customers after the sector was hit hard by the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. Many believe that, although there is a regular plan to improve sanitation around the city, preparations for the Commonwealth Heads of State and Government meeting, which have now been postponed, made it a priority. There are changes because we had renovated everything. We weren't happy because our guests wouldn't have been able to enjoy to the fullest due to the COVID-19 pandemic. If it goes well, the meeting might be resumed when many of the services have been reopened so that they can enjoy even more. Now that guests are not many, I try to renovate what has been destroyed. I believe that guests will come when everything is in place. Although we've been disrupted, we did not stop preparations. Economic analysts explain that countries that host the Commonwealth Heads of State and Government meeting usually benefit from it based on the high level of participation by the people from different areas of the world who leave their money in the country, depending on how long they spend and the services they consume, as Trato Habyarimana explains. Whenever there are many guests, receiving them and giving them services provides jobs especially to the youth, plus the fact that many of the strong media houses converge into the country, and all this brings profit to the country. Although the Commonwealth Heads of State and Government meeting was postponed to a later date, economic analysts say that despite the fact that many people were already well prepared for the meeting, one cannot forget that some services have not been reopened due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Thus, a possibility that if people follow the guidelines in place, the meeting might be resumed when such services have been reopened, which can bring more benefit in addition to what was expected in June this year. It is a misfortune that it has been postponed, but that misfortune might carry some chances since the meeting might be resumed when some services like bars and entertainment places have been reopened, which can be a huge benefit. So I think Rwandans should further prevention measures to fight against the coronavirus so that those services can be reopened. Theonest Najengerwa, a spokesperson for the Private Sector Federation of Rwanda, says the private sector should not be discouraged by the fact that the meeting was postponed, but rather make it a task for them to continue improving their services so that when the meeting is resumed, they will be on the right track. There is no way a person can say they are 100% prepared. Even those that are prepared should prepare even more. We expect people to continue fighting against COVID-19 so that by the time the meeting resumes, some services will be reopened. The private sector should not be discouraged since the meeting was just postponed, not cancelled. So we should continue preparations in order to be ready by the time the meeting is resumed. The Commonwealth Heads of State and Government meeting was expected to host about 10,000 people, and it is difficult to determine the amount of money the conference might generate due to the fact that various service providers such as hotels, buses, entertainment, tourism and others earn income from the participants. In 2019, Rwanda hosted different summits that grossed up to $56 million, about 54 billion Rwandan francs, reflecting the benefit of international conferences to the country. Sam Kalisa, RTV News.
Thank you, Sam Kalisa, for that report. Now, Dr. Peter Mathuki has noted that his 3-day visit to Rwanda will help him in fulfilling his responsibilities as the new Secretary General of the EAC. As our reporter Ghislaine Mugwaneza continues, officials in Rwanda's Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation say the country is ready to collaborate with the new Secretary General in order to achieve the EAC goals.
It is the first visit to the East African Community countries since he started fulfilling his responsibilities as the new Secretary General of the East African Community. On the last day of his visit, Dr. Peter Mathuki visited the Kigali Memorial Center and paid his respects to the victims of the genocide against the Tutsi buried at the center. In his message in the visitor's book, Dr. Peter Mathuki stated that the East African Community stands with Rwanda as it commemorates the victims of the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi. He also emphasized that this history should never repeat itself again. On Friday, Dr. Mathuki had visited the East African Science and Technology Commission that has had its headquarters in Kigali since 2015. The acting executive secretary at this commission, Fortunate Muyambi, spoke of the challenges they presented to the Secretary General.
We presented 2 challenges. One is we are understaffed. That's one. 2, the funding, limited funds to carry out our activities.
The community's private sectors have also presented the challenges they face to the Secretary General, including the cross-border trade problems found in East African Community. They were given assurance that they will be resolved.
In few months, I've known him working on all borders, either ours here at Rusumo, Busia, Namanga and others. All borders have got problems because of shortcomings and misunderstandings that occurred, and because of trucks that could cover 40 kilometers of the road. COVID-19 has brought us into new things that we never expected, but they happened, including testing, vaccinating, where drivers will sleep. A lot of new things occurred. He's going to start with those things, at least, even though we're in the COVID-19 season. Let us permit goods to cross borders in an easy and rapid way. As a person who knows how the private sector works and what it wants in trading, he is the person we feel that he's going to boost trading businesses in East African countries, and we shall help him, as he also permitted the same.
Officials in Rwanda's Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation say the country is ready to collaborate with the new Secretary General in order to achieve the East African Community's goals.
I think that he's the person that can help us to understand that we have one market. Borders should be reopened for the people to bring goods in the country or take them where they want to do business. He's the one capable of doing this while speaking for other countries, so that those challenges, either crossing the border or goods, means of transport, especially during this pandemic, so that people could sell their goods without facing challenges. We had talks with him, and we promised to help him to fulfill his responsibilities.
On the 27th of February, the East African Community's leaders appointed Dr. Peter Mathuki as the next Secretary General of the regional bloc, and he started his responsibility on the 25th of April this year. Rwanda is the first country he has visited since he started his responsibilities, where on his first day of the visit, Dr. Mathuki held talks with President Paul Kagame.
So I basically came to interact with the people of Rwanda, the government of Rwanda. I had an opportunity to meet even the head of state in Rwanda, for him to share wisdom and with me, and also get his thinking about integration, because that is one thing I know. Integration of EAC and Africa is very close to his heart, and therefore I would not have come to, honestly, would not have started elsewhere than starting from Rwanda and seek the wisdom of the leadership in Rwanda, and that is why I came. Secondly, I had to interact with the stakeholders, and that is why we are here today, meeting the private sector in Rwanda. As you know, regional integration is, yes, people-centered, but private sector-led. So I'm going back more equipped, more determined to go and really start my tour of duty as the Secretary General of the East African Community.
In his visit, Dr. Mathuki was accompanied by other officials including Martin Ngoga, the Speaker of the East African Legislative Assembly, Judge President of the East African Court of Justice, Nesta Kayobera, and Christophe Bazivamo, the Deputy Secretary General in charge of Administration and Finance of the East African Community. Shislen Mugwaneza, reporting for RwandaTV. There are some of Rwanda residents that were engaged in illegal trafficking and experienced losses, but now are among 4,000 people that started doing manual labor. These residents appreciate the fact that the government thought of them, and they believe that their current occupations will be the starting point to their development.
I'm happy and thank the government that thought of us who were already lost. If we get the money, we're really going to make profit out of it. What I'm going to benefit from this job is that I will get developed because I'm in the second Ubudehe category. I should pay health insurance and my children should go to school and get uniforms.
The Minister of Local Government, Jean-Marie Vianney Gatabazi, has urged those chosen for the jobs to properly utilize this opportunity.
It will all go with the plans of helping them to save so that they won't take money into drugs and alcohol and instead save it, which will help them in starting permanent projects. For the youth, we shall put them in cooperatives. We shall keep on giving them the ability to make money, and those unable to get into cooperatives will also keep on getting job opportunities, which will lead to starting their own businesses so that they may progress.
Minister Gatabazi also said that to those who used to do illegal trafficking will be put in cooperatives that will help them in coming up with beneficial project ideas that will be funded through BDF. The manual labor project started in Burera district features road repairs, the installation of water pipes and other infrastructure. 400 million Rwandan francs will be spent on the project in Burera district alone, and it will provide jobs to more than 4,000 people.
Now, some young entrepreneurs appreciate the opportunities that Rwanda gives to young people in ways that they can demonstrate their full potential. The Ministry of Public Service and Labour says that although the COVID-19 pandemic has negatively affected employment, it does not rule out the goal of creating 1.5 million jobs. Gabi Mufunyi has more.
Abdul Nioni Zeye is 26 years old. He studied ICT at university. After taking note on concerns about the quality of education, he decided to find a solution to this problem and launched an online platform.
The main question here is if the teachers are liked by their students. What is the approach they use to communicate with their students? The goal here is how we can use those talented teachers, share them across the platform. That is the value that this platform has. I would like to thank the government of Rwanda that gives us such opportunities.
He started this project in 2019 and it grew stronger when the COVID-19 pandemic started because many students had to convert to online schooling. Currently, he has hired around 70 teachers on a monthly salary, a task that has been greatly praised by the Ministry of Public Service and Labour for being a solution to some of the COVID-19 effects. The employees appreciate, saying they never thought of getting employment during the pandemic.
This project was very good. You see, many people were not working during the lockdown, but for us, we were able to. Smart Classes has come and answered many of our problems regarding the loss of our jobs.
The Ministry of Public Service and Labour appreciates those that create jobs despite the standstill in the employment sector. Rwanda will not lag behind in its plan to create 1.5 million jobs by 2024.
We have done a lot in job creation, but challenges still exist, including, among others, limited entrepreneurship and innovation support system, skills mismatch between education and labor market needs. COVID-19 has also come with new challenges, which, like other layers of life, has heavily affected the world of work, thus calling us to invest more and achieve resilience and sail through the fragile labor market the pandemic has created. Our country targets to create 1.5 million jobs, 1.5 million productive and decent jobs by the year 2024.
According to the National Institute of Statistics in Rwanda in 2020, when COVID-19 was first detected in Rwanda and lockdown was enforced, unemployment rose sharply from 13.1% to 22%. This number has now dropped back to 17.8%. The decline in the unemployment rate, 29% increase in jobs and technology, a 16% increase in healthcare, and 1% increase in agriculture. Globally, the pandemic has left more than 33 million unemployed, adding to the more 188 million who were already unemployed. Gabi Muvunyi for RTV.
In a bid to boost the national response towards mitigating the impact of COVID-19, Red Cross Rwanda says their relief operations have since been aimed at eliminating false information circulating among residents regarding the pandemic. Gabi Muvunyi continues.
It has been a year since the first COVID-19 case was detected in Rwanda, and some residents say they still feel the need to know more information about the virus.
I want to understand where this virus came from and how it reached Rwanda. We also understand that AIDS is caused by unprotected sex. How does COVID spread?
Seeing everyone wearing a mask is not normal. I'm curious to know, will we wear these masks forever? Also, what happens when someone is severely ill? Is it like Ebola? Red Cross Rwanda says that research conducted during the COVID-19 period shows that there is a surge in fake news exploiting public fear and uncertainty around the coronavirus.
We spoke to 13,500 people around the country. About 12% said that COVID-19 is a punishment from God. We have a good number of volunteers that help raise awareness on the virus. 16% of them say that the virus was created by humans. Others argue that it was established by a foreign government. Others argue that it was established by a foreign government. Others say that it is more contagious at night than it is in the daytime. The best way to fight this pandemic is for people to have the right information.
Mu buryo bwiza bwo kurwanya iki cyorezo nuko abantu bose bagira ubumenyi nyabwo kuri iki cyorezo.
The World Health Organization says that both misinformation and disinformation on COVID-19 and its vaccine plays a role in reversing what has been achieved so far. This has led to some self-medicating in order to prevent and treat COVID-19, while others say they will never get the vaccine.
We're not just fighting an epidemic, we're fighting an infodemic. Fake news spreads faster and more easily than this virus and is just as dangerous.
On World Red Cross and Red Crescent Day, Red Cross Rwanda has since the beginning of the pandemic embarked on different interventions in helping vulnerable families. The Secretary General at the Red Cross Rwanda says an estimated 1.5 million has already been spent to rally support for people affected by the crisis in the country.
In all provinces, including the city of Kigali, more than 100,000 families were provided with food items, hygiene commodities and money.
59 years ago, Red Cross began its activities in Rwanda with a focus on human rights without discrimination or bias and the desired relief being provided freely to vulnerable persons. Gabi Muvunyi for RTV.
Thank you very much, Gabi. To Education Matters now, primary school principals and local education officials have noted that the technological gadgets which have been provided to them will help in improving the quality of education they provide. Jane Mutoni has more.
3 months ago, some local education offices and principals of primary schools were given tablets and computers to assist them in their day-to-day work. Here in the third year of primary school in the Nyanza School Complex in Kigali City, the Kinyarwanda language course is being taught. The principal of the school said that the gadgets provided by the Rwanda Primary Education Board helped her to help educators in their work, including teaching literacy, which she shared with the Director of Education in Kagarama sector, where the school is located. They contain books which teachers use when preparing the course outline. They also contain guidance on how to effectively educate so that in case a teacher faces any sort of challenge, he or she may be able to look up for better or modern techniques on teaching Kinyarwanda. One of my main duties is to visit different schools and observe the quality of education that is being provided. I then cross-check a subject that is being taught and how far it's being covered and if it's being done correctly. The Rwanda Basic Education Board says the technological gadgets will make it easier for education officials and school principals to collect and use information related to children's education and to assist teachers in improving the quality of education, in which parents have to play a role in as well. We are going to be assessing the implementation of this project and how these gadgets are being put to use so that teachers can use them to teach children how to read Kinyarwanda. I would like to also request parents to play a role in encouraging their children to read. The Minister of State for Primary and Secondary Education, Gaspard Twagirayezu, who received the gadgets, said that the education authorities in the sector will be able to monitor the performance of teachers and collect, analyze and discuss each student's education information at the sector level in order to improve the quality of education. They will not only help us to teach children how to read, but also to share information concerning their performance in reading skills. The Director of Education at USAID, Luan Gronhov, says the United States will continue to work with Rwanda to promote technology in education because it is a good foundation.
And we're here as their support. So absolutely, we remain 100% committed to the partnership. And in terms of technology, that also, we know strategically how interested Rwanda is in technology. So the Minister of State could not have said it better this morning, that technology is not the end goal, but it's a tool to help us do our jobs just a bit better, a bit more efficiently. And so we really believe that there's an opportunity there.
The gadgets provided so far are 2,755 tablets and 30 laptops. Jane Mutoni, RTV News.